I know I'm not supposed to be making this video, but I felt like I have to talk about this because we know Hollywood has some crazy weather conditions for actors to work through them, especially if you're hired to work in a kids show, which is Power Rangers. And we all remember Mighty Morphin back in the day from being the most iconic season, iconic show. But a lot of people don't know and realize about the behind the scenes situations when it comes to actors, directors, producers, and even Saban's abusive ways of having these actors work in terrible conditions. And one of the original actors, Audrey Dubois, the pilot episode Trini, had an interview with Investigation about her time on Power Rangers, even though she pretty much wanted more money, but Saban pretty much fired her because of it. I mean, if you're gonna hire these actors to do your job, at least you could have done as a person to pay these actors more money, because you're cheap behind want to be so cheap so bad. You can't even just give these actors what they want. And I think it's obvious to me that what we're about to talk about should give you a clear indication as to why you shouldn't even consider acting in the industry because of how the industry is. And Power Rangers is no surprise to me. Audrey Dubois' role was recast with 3 Train before the pilot aired. Train left the show in season 2 over contract dispute. Yep, we know that before. She continued, it was offered to anyone there that they would get 100 if they took that man's wetsuit off and put it on so that we could continue shooting. And someone did. The original then was in his underwear in the dirt, flopping around, waiting for an ambulance. Now, you see, this is the one thing that I really despise about Power Rangers, especially when it comes to Saban and his abusive ways of how he treated these actors back then. I mean, I wouldn't be dumb enough to even start acting if I was ever good at martial arts or anything. The conditions, my health and my well-being matters the most than acting and getting paid from a script. Now, this one is about a guy who had a heat stroke by wearing a putty suit. And this was during a pilot episode. The fact that they're actually coming out with these crazy stories like this makes me believe that Saban was a terrible person based on what we're reading here. I was watching it going on. While I was watching that going, what? This is not okay. It's scaring me, she said. So Tony Oliver actually chimed in an interview and said this. Basically, these contracts made it okay to work you to death. And they did. They're not just sitting around saying lines. They're jumping around, is very physical. They have to work out and train to maintain their characters. Our shoot days were much longer. We shot 12 to 14 hours a day, where unions were 8 to 10. So it could be a little abusive to the actors. Yeah, it is. It is. The fact that they were shooting 12 to 14 hours a day, basically every day, especially if you're in a bad weather, like whether it's the heat wave or is it in a storm. And mind you, this was the one time that they shot an episode in season 2 where there was like an earthquake, and it was called Zavia's Island, when Tommy had to save this little girl. And I think it was a massive earthquake there. It wasn't from the show, but I think it happened multiple times, if I'm not mistaken. And Saban's just turned it into a storyline, which is kind of dumb. So, yeah, Audrey, I feel like she basically wanted to tell on Saban, pretty much snitched on him because we know how the original actors were back then. Like Amy Jo Johnson and David Yost were almost on fire during the episode shoot where they had to switch bodies. And Amy almost caught on fire filming a Power Rangers movie. And she was almost electrocuted in the Turbo Power Rangers movie, even though that movie sucked. Like Donkey Kong's. So it really goes to show you that Mighty Morphin, even though it is an iconic franchise, but what goes on behind the scenes should tell you otherwise, should tell you everything you need to know about how Saban was back then. You know, it may be an action-packed children's television show, and a lot of us adult fans still watch it to this day. And there's nothing wrong with watching Power Rangers just because you grew up with it. But if you know your history, if you know what goes on behind closed doors, because these actors confirmed it, the fans know about it, they still talk about it to this day. But it was all due to one man, and that man is Saban, Haim Saban himself. So the fact that the putty suit actor had a heat stroke waiting for an ambulance instead of somebody try to cool him off or cool him down, that'll be enough to have somebody pass away right there. Because I don't know if what weather conditions in California they were filming in, because we know in the summertime in California it's very, very hot. It could sometimes be 128 degrees or 102 degrees, maybe 99 degrees, depending on how, you know, you work. But they had to do it. They had to do it. So, yeah, if y'all want the link to the article, it'll be down below. I gotta go to sleep. I'm out.